Instead of trying to change the white man and your mind, make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionless movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalist. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Peace and Black Power families, brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people, new Africans and Africans, to wake up, clean up, and stand up. Family, thank you for joining us. If you're live, those of you who will watch the later recorded version, we thank you in advance. We ask that you please subscribe to the channel and, share this link. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Today, I'm starting, in this broadcast, kind of starting a new series. A series I think we'll call something like, Is That True? Where we're going to take commonly said phrases in the Black Liberation Movement, and we're going to complicate them. We're going to ask ourselves, okay, this is what so-and-so said. Is it true? Based on our lived experience, our observation, our study. Today, we're starting with our great Jegnan ancestor, Dr. Clarke. Now, Dr. Clarke has famously said in a speech, Black people have no friends. So today we're trying to grapple with the question of, is what Dr. Clarke said true? Is it actual factual that Black people have no friends? What are the implications of that? And so on. Now let's first say, Dr. Clarke, we have to give it the right context. This is one of the problems with political rhetoric. Sometimes the rhetoric, it has metaphorical qualities to it that are not meant to be taken literally, but meant to make a larger political point. And sometimes we confuse the metaphorical with the literal. If you go watch the speech, if you go to YouTube, type in Dr. John Henrik Clarke, type in We Have No Friends, and listen to it, you'll see what I mean. But in the speech, the context was that Dr. Clarke was specifically discussing the untrustworthiness of world religions, like Islam. He called it Hebrewism. He didn't call it Judaism because he said Judaism is a European actual phraseology, and Christianity, right? And in that speech, he was arguing that these so-called major world religious systems all participated in the exploitation and oppression of African people. Is that true? Absolutely true. He goes on to argue that as a result of this oppressive history, with these major world religious systems and the people who represent them, we cannot trust these religious systems or the people representing them, right? He's saying they're untrustworthy. Then, of course, he asserts that we are overly friendly, overly hospitable with outsiders. He then argues that the foreign religious systems that a lot of us adopted, Islam, being his Hebrew Israelites, being Christians, that the fundamental aspects of those major religions originated in Africa, that these people misinterpreted and reinterpreted, right, what comes out of Africa, and they used the religious system as weapons against Africans. Right now, today, people use quotes from Dr. Clarke's very famous lecture to suggest that Black people only organize among themselves, that we don't organize with other groups of people because, after all, quote, we have no friends. So now, with that context, and I urge you to go watch the video for yourself, come back and watch this and see if this is not accurate. So now the question is, wait, before we get to the question, let me just get at some of the comments that we have. Of course, I'm going to put a reminder to support the movement of Harlem Liberation School. Make sure you subscribe, family, if you're watching through Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Some of you are watching on my Facebook channel. Some of you are watching on Twitter. Brother Norman Richmond says, greetings, peace to you, Brother Norman Richmond. Brother Nnamdi Sabukwe says that you're doing well. I see you was at the Community Movement Builders discussion. Yes, sir. And I'm happy you made it back home safe. Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Nnamdi. That's my queen. One true love, Brenda Hilaire, is in the building, saying Wakuza to the family. And Brother Nnamdi again is giving a comment about being revolutionary. All right, I just want to make sure I got those comments in, family. I don't want people thinking that I'm ignoring them, right? Now, the question then becomes, was Dr. Clarke correct in his analysis? Is he right when he says, we Africans, Black people, we have no friends? Well, in the context in which he said it, he's absolutely right and exact. His analysis of how non-Africans oppressed Africa through religious systems that they kind of borrowed elements from Africa, that's absolutely true. Yes. And in this vein, he's talking specifically about the Arabs and Islam. He's talking about the Europeans and Christianity. And he's talking about the so-called Hebrews and what later became Judaism, right? Now, however, here's the catch, family. Not once in that speech did Dr. Clarke suggest or even imply that Black people should not or could not have allies, family. Allies, right? Now, I kind of refuse to put words in Dr. Clarke's mouth. He is not alive to defend himself or explain. However, as a master historian and teacher, Dr. Clarke surely knew the importance of allies to people who are at war. Dr. Clarke surely knew about the U.S. Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and on and on. And he certainly knew that in each military conflict, each side had enemies and each side had allies. See, there is a difference, family, between friends and allies. There's a difference between friendships and alliances, right? Friendships are more based on, you might say, kind of emotional, personal connections, whereas alliances are based on power, protection, resources, and common interests. An alliance is a far different project than a friendship, right? And also, we should understand friendships can sometimes be temporary too. But alliances, the understanding is that I'm rocking with you because you have resources that I need. And you're rocking with me because we have resources you need. We may not be the best of friends, right? We may not agree on everything politically, but we have some common interest, and each side has resources that the other side needs. And so we have agreed to come together and work together around a common goal, understanding that when our interests change, then this alliance may not be an alliance anymore. Alliances are often temporary. And you don't have to be friends to be allies, family. We're now talking about military strategy, right? Okay, so with that in mind, keeping in mind everything we said previously, black people may not have many friends, and as Dr. Clarke suggested, I agree with him. We don't have friends in that sense, in terms of people that represent these other big world religions coming through these religious systems that oppressed us and used their religious system to do it. Certainly, we can't count them as friends based on the history. But if we want to win our liberation, family, we must cultivate strategic alliances when we are outgunned and outnumbered. We cannot afford to isolate ourselves, right? And I guess I would say, let me stop for comments. Brother Ishmael Bey is in the building. Peace to my good brother Ishmael Bey in the building. What's up, brother Ishmael? Brother Nanamdi says, he said we don't have permanent we can't have permanent interests. We have to be dialectical. Yes. Okay. Not be free. Okay. But so I want to encourage you all to not listen to what I say. Go to the video. Listen to it. Listen to those exact words he uses. And you'll see what I'm saying is correct. He was not just talking about we don't have any friends anywhere in the world. He gave it a context. He talked about major world religions that were taken from Africa, that were misinterpreted, reinterpreted, and used as weapons against us, that we cannot trust. The Islam, Muslims, quote unquote, Arabs from Islam, the Europeans from Christianity, or the Hebrews that later became Jews. That's really who he was talking about in that context of that speech. So basically, kind of the conclusion is this. When we're talking of a context of people are waging war against us culturally, politically, any way you can imagine, legally, then we must think in a military sort of context. And there is no war, modern war you can name, or even ancient wars where the sides did not have allies, particularly when one side was outgunned, outnumbered, had smaller forces, didn't have access to superior weapons, right? These sides always have allies, right? And so I think what I'm suggesting is we must form alliances with people, organizations, and nations that have the resources we need. And when I say resources, let me be very clear. As you can see on the bottom, the transcription, these resources include things like intelligence. And by intelligence, I don't mean IQ. I mean information. There are certain groups of people, because of their proximity to other groups of people, they know things that we don't know, that we need to know. So we can rely on them for accurate intelligence. Certain types of training. I'm not going to get too specific. Certain types of materials that one would need in a war that we may not have. Land, territory, headquarters that we may not have access to. And certainly one of the most important resources, funding, money. Brother Malcolm certainly understood this. This is why he spent so much of his 1964, 65 trip to Africa, excuse me, family, meeting with various heads of state in Africa, including Abdul Nasser of Egypt. He met with Kwame Nkrumah previously, and at that time, I believe he met with the brother in Tanzania. But he met with people, and part of his meeting was to establish networks of partnership, of alliance, right? He wanted to form alliances with other countries outside the United States to have access to funding, military training, even training in, I think he arranged for scholarships with Nasser to have a certain amount of African Americans be able to study in Cairo, Egypt, free of charge, get their 4-year degree. So all of our wise leaders, most effective leaders and teachers, including Dr. John Henrik Clarke, understood that in a wartime context, you must have alliances. And again, this doesn't mean they're your friends, right? We all have friends. We may have a bunch of friends, and then you're getting evicted, and none of your friends can help you, right? It doesn't mean they're not your friend, but you may have alliances that are prepared, and you have an understanding that, hey, if one of us is suffering, we be prepared to help. That's an alliance is specifically in place to provide key resources you need in times of trouble. Protection, money, intelligence, and the things that we named previously. So this whole point was to complicate Dr. Clarke's message when he says, we don't have no friends. We got to complicate that. Does he mean literally we have no friends? He's saying, family, first of all, don't trust the people, the religious systems. Be suspect of these religious systems, particularly when you know they were created in Africa and they were misinterpreted and reinterpreted by other people who are outsiders and weaponized against us. Does that mean we can't be Christian and Muslim and Hebrew Israelite? No. Of course we can join a religious system. We can participate in a faith-based system. It just means understand politically how those things were used against our people. And don't be naive when those same people or their descendants come to you under religious guise with things that will derail your liberation movement. That's what he's saying. But you can subscribe to any belief system and use it for righteousness. But don't be naive, right? But the larger point I'm making, in addition to what Dr. Clarke said, was whether people are our best friends or not, we had better be politically savvy enough to understand when we see land, we don't have access to money and grants and community spaces, and we see other people are doing certain things, may have a knowledge that we may not have, may have political contacts we don't have, may have intelligence, meaning information that we don't have, funding we don't have. It would only be intelligent to form alliances with people to be able to have access to the resources they have that we don't have. And remember, alliances are two-way. You get benefits from the alliance with this group. They are benefited from alliance with us. It has to be a two-way thing. It's not an alliance, right? That's just another form of oppression if it's a one-sided benefit, right? So this is what we're arguing here. Don't worry about who's your friend or not in terms of war. Let me give you a good example. In World War II, the allies were United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Well, guess what? Right after World War II, United States and the Soviet Union then began a decades-long Cold War where they were bitter enemies, racing to see who would get in space first, racing to see who would accumulate the greatest number of nuclear weapons and all types of arms, right? This is telling you that during the war, they had a common interest in stopping the spread of Nazism, right? Checking Japan's imperial army. But after the war, their interests changed. And so the same people who were fighting together as allies became enemies. So understand, when we talk about allies, these people are not your friends. It's not a personal connection. You like how they look, you like what they wear, you like their scent, you like to hang out with them. Friends. This is a military piece. We're in this to get something specific out of it, and so are they, right? That's very important that we understand the difference. Now, let me go to comments. Make sure I don't leave anybody out. Brother Ishmael adds, Dr. Clarke was implying we can use others as allies, but ultimately, we're all we got and all we need is within us. That is correct. That is correct. And then we have different people that are basically shouting each other out. The Queen is reminding us to please like the video, share it, and subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube. And if you're not, please go to YouTube and subscribe. So family, what we're saying here is, when it's just like with reading, there's a connotative meaning, there's a denotative meaning. There's an implied meaning, there's an explicit meaning, right? Implicit and explicit. So when we hear what people are saying, we have to not only hear what they're literally saying, we have to hear what they're saying between the lines. Like when you read something, there's the overt, obvious meaning, and there's sometimes there's an underlying or implied meaning, right? So Dr. Clarke is basically telling black people, don't be naive, don't be foolish. Don't trust people who have a history of oppressing us and use religions and different things to oppress us. But when you're trying to get things done, you're going to have to form alliances. It may be temporary. It might be a temporary alliance, but you're going to form alliances to protect your interests. I think something that is important for our people today is to make sure that we're not moving from hatred or bitterness or ignorance of other groups, but we're thinking strategically always thinking strategically. What moves will put us in a better position to be safe, to advance ourselves, right? And to be self-determined, right? And so if you look at history and different wars, you're going to see all types of people that team together that may not have ever been on the best of terms, but they have a common objective. I want to challenge us to look in our communities and train yourself to start seeing or thinking about what people are natural allies, or what people around us who are not African necessarily might qualify as people to align with, because these people have a resource that we need access to. And even if it just means that you team up with them to learn something and move your own separate way, that's fine. But this liberation, ego and liberation don't mix. All the ego and that has to go out the window. We want actual facts. We want the stuff we need, and being honest with ourselves as a community. What information do we need that we don't know? Being honest. What resources do we need that we don't have? Being honest, right? And if we don't know how to do something that we need to know how to do, and if we don't have a resource that we need to have, who has it? And that's the type of thinking we're going to have to adopt, right? And till we get to a place where get to a time where maybe we have everything we need, in which case maybe we don't need any allies. But we are certainly not there yet, family. There are people that live amongst us that have knowledge of certain things, access to certain things that we don't. And we can take the choice to be mad at them. We could do that. Or we could take the choice to say, you know what? I'm going to learn. Trust me. Be strategic. Don't be ego-driven. It's not about what you feel, right? Get past the feelings and let's start being strategic. Well, with that said, family, we are done. There are no more questions or comments. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of lunch with Brother Agyei as we kick a little politics. And I certainly want to invite you to stay tuned with us at Harlem Liberation School as we move to expand, to be more relevant, to be more on the ground, to be even more in touch with the people, and to provide relevant, nation-building, liberatory information. And remember, family, we can love our parents, our friends, relatives, our leaders, our ancestors, but we can also still be critical. We can still say, was this correct? Or if it was correct, then does this still apply now? And if it does apply now, are there different ways we can look at this thing? Always being mentally flexible, and always remember that it's not about who we like and what we like. A lot of us get caught up as younger people, who we like, and then we find out that these people are absolute creeps with low character. And there'll be people that you don't like, don't like, and you work with them and find out, yo, this sister is good people. All this time I had the wrong impression, because when you don't work with people consistently over time, you won't know who they are, right? So I just want to challenge us to get out our comfort zone on these things. Look in your community, look around, see who's doing stuff, who's getting stuff done, not just talking, getting stuff done. Who's mounting movement successfully? Who got little bits of land and property going on? Who's forming cooperative supermarkets and enterprises? And if we've lost knowledge of that, because we had knowledge of these things once that we've been disconnected from, well, okay, that's fine. If we lost knowledge of it, who might we connect to understand some of these things? In addition, what books or literature in our own history can we reconnect to learn? For instance, how to create mutual aid societies and, things of this nature. And with that said, family, I am basically done. I want to thank you for joining us. And as Queen says, thank you for joining us. Please tell a friend about Harlem Liberation School. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to hear us talk about, people you'd like us to bring on, because, it's not just me. We have all types of people come through here. So if you have people you want to see, hear from, if you have certain topics you'd like us to discuss, family, please hit us up. HarlemLSchool@gmail.com, or on our Facebook page, Harlem Liberation School, or on my personal Facebook page. With that said, family, thank you for joining us. Have a beautiful day. Peace and Black Power.